be prepared to trust the process, right? Because when you're getting into business, right, you have so much ambition and high hopes, and you just think that you're straight to the moon, and you're so excited about your idea and what you're going to do. And vast majority of the time, and virtually for everybody that I've talked to and interviewed on my podcast, it doesn't work out like that. There's a whole lot of mistakes, a whole lot of things where life will blindside you. A lot of ideas don't work out. There's so many unknowns. And, it really is a process, and no one wants to hear that going in. And oftentimes you maybe fall into that trap of thinking that it's not going to happen to you. But in reality, you really need that process too.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Dave Gulas. And Dave started his journey in high school and college, didn't know what he wanted to do. So he went off to the University of Michigan to start down the college path, but it wasn't a good fit. So he ended up dropping out and going into sales instead. I think he went into phone sales, if I remember right. Did that for a period of time, did pharma sales, and worked his way up to being an executive and did that for about 20 years or so. And then 2022 came around, the company ended up going under, otherwise going out of business. And a friend of his and him decided they wanted to do something else. So knew a lot about businesses having issues in the shipping and warehousing and fulfillment arena. So decided to start something in that direction, and also look to build a personal brand and grow the business. So with that much as a quick introduction, welcome on the podcast, Dave.
Hey, thanks so much, Devin. You did great with that.
Awesome. Well, I do my best to condense everybody's lives into about 30 or 45 seconds. So all works out well. But no, so I gave kind of the quick overview or the quick run through of a much longer journey. So why don't we rewind and unpack that a little bit and tell us a little bit more about coming out of high school, didn't quite know what you want to do, starting to and going down the college route, and kind of where the journey went from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming out of high school, right, I was always in that mindset, next step is go to college. Went to U of M Dearborn, and I had business picked out as my major. But after, about a year and a half, I just wasn't feeling it. And it was really started with the semester off, and I just never went back. But, thereafter, right, I'd always had been working outside the home very early, had a lot of different, like phone sales jobs throughout high school. And that was something that I was always just naturally good at. I was always a good reader, a good orator, a good speaker, and I was always good on the phones. And I quickly realized too that if you could produce results, you could increase your income just based on those results and not just be stuck at an hourly wage within sales. So that always attracted me to the field, and I just started taking it a lot more serious, after high school, and went down that path. And
Now, let me just kind of ask just one follow-up question just to dive in. So, I mean, you said, hey, and that's probably a bit stereotypical. Don't know exactly what I want to do. The typical route that you go down is, hey, I'll go to college. That gives me a time to figure things out, is what, the traditional route, so to speak. Now, what was it about, college that didn't necessarily jive? Was it, hey, I don't like the studies, or I don't like the atmosphere, or I don't like classes, or, I'm a horrible student, or it's too slow for me, or, any number of things can, not jive well, but kind of or as you got into college, what was kind of the tipping point to say this just isn't for me?
yeah, I mean, I think I was always naturally a very good student. School came pretty easy to me, but I think it was more so just I've always been a little bit impatient too. So just kind of wanting to get into action and not just, look at textbooks type of thing. I mean, I think that was the biggest thing. And, I was always naturally ambitious, trying a bunch of different things. And, I mean, I guess just didn't wasn't feeling it. So yeah, started with a semester off and just ended up quickly thereafter, getting a full-time sales job and really just diving into that.
Got it. Makes sense. So now, so you go off into sales. Now, you said, you kind of had that, some of that maybe natural bent or, otherwise experience and doing those type of things. So you went off into sales, and I think I don't know if you stayed with the one position for a long period of time or you moved around, but maybe fill us in. Was it a single job and hey, I stuck there for 20 years and worked my way up, or was it kind of moved around a bit and figured out what aspect of sales was the area you wanted to focus on? So yeah, maybe fill us in a bit on that journey.
Yeah, so I mean, I started very early on with a company that was called Direct Buy. It's not around anymore. It was kind of a membership shopping club for home furnishings and that type of thing. And this is like pre-Amazon, pre-e-commerce days. So kind of the rise of Amazon it basically killed that business. But yeah, that's where I really got introduced to personal development and really honing all these various aspects of sales from giving presentations and tone inflection and the right way to ask questions and tracking all the different metrics and really kind of part of a marketing system that was well designed and well monitored and well executed. So that I was there for a few years, and thereafter is when I got into the medical and the pharmaceutical industry, and then I stayed there for just about 20 years thereafter.
So now you stay there for 20 years, good luck or a period of time. I must say they enjoyed it, liked the paycheck, done well, or otherwise, maybe didn't have any options. I'm just making up. But you stayed there for 20 years. Sounds like it was a good opportunity, good experience. And now 20 years, I guess, or it sounded like if I remember right, when we talked a bit before, you kind of worked your way up or, or went kind of through that, that process of kind of starting maybe from more entry level all the way up to, higher level, but kind of, 20 years is a good period of time. So kind of what was that evolution of staying or within that position or that company?
Yeah, I mean, started entry level, and very quickly it was interesting. Like all the skills and the lessons I'd learned from the previous company, I applied to the sales at that current company, and I quickly, within a few months, was like the top sales rep and doing very well there, and that just opened up a whole world of opportunity in terms of just being able to close and produce results and put up numbers, and it quickly moved up and got a lot more responsibility, and over the time moved into an executive role and just enjoyed a very good run, throughout that whole time. And the company itself went through numerous iterations and market fluctuations and pivots and et cetera. But just based on my ability to sell and produce results, I was always, involved in a lot of high level activities within that company.
No, sounds like it was a great opportunity and a great position for you. So now you stayed there, worked your way up or had some different positions, company iterated through, did that for, you said about 20 years. Now life comes along, and I think if I remember right, and always correct, I always say correct me if I'm wrong, but you went there for 20 years, and then all of a sudden the company, I think it got sold off or shut down or didn't, couldn't or wasn't able to sustain or kind of go through that. So, or walk us through a bit more on to what that looked like.
Yeah, it's some market changes and some missteps with the bank, that sort of thing. But ultimately, they ended up. It was like a forced closure via the bank. So all of us, a lot of us saw the writing on the wall. But then thereafter, it came pretty quickly to where I had to make a decision and do something else. And so when that happened, a very good friend of mine from the industry and I, we had some conversations, and we saw a lot of opportunity within the logistics space to where, our brand of customer service from the pharmaceutical industry was very, dealing with small business owners. You're on the secondary market. Everything's urgent. All the packages are going overnight, and things go wrong like all the time. So it's a very high touch customer service environment where you have to be able to solve problems on the fly. You have to be responsive. You have to you have to answer because these small business owners need their medicine urgently. So we were used to that type of environment, and then the issues that we were seeing within logistics space is just a lot of complacency from other 3PLs to where we were seeing customers complain that they weren't getting responses timely, their orders weren't shipping, and it was kind of like because they were maybe smaller or not as big as some of larger national brands, that it was they kind of were put on the back burner and not given the type of service that they would have liked. So we saw that and we said, you know what, we'd be great for this industry. Why not just jump in and start a 3PL? And that's what we did.
Now, one maybe follow up to that. So you said, hey, you had you and your friend. Was the friend, or currently, or was he at the same company? In other words, you both saw the writing on the wall, decided to break out on your own together, or was it more of just, hey, he was looking to make a change? You were, the company you were previously at was going through that, shutdown, or otherwise not going to be in existence for much longer, or kind of how did you guys connect and make that decision to kind of go into business together?
Yeah, so we he had like a friendly competitor type of company to where I was at, and prior, about 10 years prior, our company almost bought his company. So during
Mm.
that, and that the deal ultimately ended up falling apart. But during that time period, we got to work very closely together for about 6 months and got to know each other very well. And then even after the deal fell apart, we always remained friends and that type of thing. So it was just someone that I knew from the industry. I trusted. We knew we got along well. We knew each other's work ethic. So I think we were very comfortable in terms of being in business together by the time the opportunity rolled around.
No, that makes perfect sense. So now, so you say, okay, one of the first steps is going to identify the need, what I need to what the new business is, where it's going to focus. So it sounds like you guys, came to that conclusion. Now, once you did that, and you went about kind of setting up the company. How did that go? Was it a rocket ship from the top and success rained down from the sky, and you had more work and more money than you knew what to do with, or you were always teetering on the verge of bankruptcy and never knowing where the next paycheck was coming from, or somewhere in the middle? Kind of walk us through how that iteration went.
Yeah, no, it definitely was not a rocket ship to the top. It was and again, being that he had a pharma company, I was familiar with that industry, so I was able to, do sales right in there and make income right away in terms of to pay the bills type of thing. And then as we were growing the company, it was all types of challenges, mistakes, learning,
Hmm.
missteps. But I mean, I think the good part is we were moving so quick that we got through a lot of that, very quickly. And I had some beginner's luck where the very first lead I got with the 3PL, I ended up converting. Which is rare, even though looking back in those days, I was so green. I didn't know what I was doing really, but somehow I closed the first customer right off the bat. But yeah, then thereafter it was a lot of challenges, a lot of having to make mistakes and learn and realize how much I didn't know. And then with my sales background too, it was interesting because the sales model within logistics is totally different to where with pharma, it's traditional B2B sales. You call, you build a relationship, you're selling commodities, you're familiar with the market, you're familiar with the customers, to where in our section of logistics, customers have to find you. So, I quickly realized that I had to really get out front and build a personal brand and be active on social media for customers because, people don't move warehouses every week. Like maybe businesses are buying pharma, right? So it was a totally different type of sales cycle. So once I quickly realized that, I really had to figure out how to build an online presence, how to build a presence on LinkedIn. And I went about doing that, and then eventually came the podcast as well, which was a big inflection point for us.
Now, give us an idea, kind of over, what period of time did this all transpire, kind of, everything from getting it started to where you guys are at today. Kind of walk us through that kind of period of time over, kind of how that iterated, and also building the personal brand and the podcast.
Yeah, so at this point, we've been in business just about 2.5 years. And so even, within not probably within the first 4 months, I quickly realized after going to a trade show and seeing all like our quote competitors and how big the industry was and kind of how invisible I was online, I quickly realized I had to do something immediately. So, I started doing that about 4 months in and started seeing some results right away from the online stuff. And again, it's just like anything else. I always am of the opinion you got to just jump in and start doing it and learn as you go. And of course, you're going to fall down and make some mistakes, but you can't just sit on the sidelines and try to read about it or prepare too much. You got to just jump in and do it. So that's what I did, and yeah, started getting a lot more leads with the LinkedIn stuff. And then I was having a lot of conversations too with other entrepreneurs, other founders, and networking. And I would always learn so much from those conversations. And then one day the idea popped in my head is like, hey, you should start a podcast because
Mm.
if you did that and you put these conversations out publicly, the audience could benefit, they could learn, the guests would get exposure, it would help you and the business get exposure. So it truly seemed like a win-win. And same thing, I knew nothing about podcasting, had no experience. And yeah, we have a boutique marketing firm that helps us out with everything. And I asked them, they thought it was a great idea, and we found a way to just get it off the ground quickly, at very low cost. And I said, great, let's do it. And that was October 2023. So just started doing it, started, using my natural sales ability to just, get guests and book interviews and that sort of thing. And then as of this point, we've released 115 episodes. We're dropping twice a week now. We're ranked on Listen Notes in the top 5% globally of all podcasts. And it's done wonders for the business, not only in terms of lead generation, but lead conversion. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun and a great networking tool as well.
No, that's awesome. Sounds like it's been both a great experience, a good evolution, learning along the way and then continuing to grow. So now kind of with that all in mind, as you've gone through that journey, now if you were to kind of say, okay, done some of the learnings, launching the podcast, building, kind of that presence and that online, online capabilities, personal brand, all of those are items that it sounds like contributed to a lot of the success. Now, if you kind of forward look and say, okay, now looking at what is the next 6 to 12 months, kind of what do you see as kind of that next step or the next part of the evolution as you continue forward?
Yeah, I mean, really, we just want to continue to grow and eventually expand into a bigger facility, and open up that next facility, and as well as just kind of refine and optimize all our processes, which we're continually doing. And we've made a bunch of mistakes, but again, we've always taken them in stride, and they've always helped us accelerate our learning. So, in the beginning, we definitely tried to do too much with too little, to where now we have a very solid team in place, and everything is very system oriented, process oriented, and we're still, we huddle every morning as a team, and we go over all the business for the day, any current issues we're dealing with, as well as projects that we're working on. So, yeah, just continue to improve all aspects of the business. And myself, I'm very active. This is a busy sales season for 3PLs because most people make their move within Q1 and Q2 if they are going to move warehouses. So a lot of sales calls, a lot of conversations going on right now about people potentially moving in. So yeah, just really and trying to get better every day, provide the best possible service we can for our customers, and continue to grow the business.
No, that's awesome. Sounds like a lot of good opportunities yet ahead, a lot of good possibilities and fun to come. So definitely be fun to continue to see how those things evolve. So now with that, now as we've kind of reached the present day and even looking a bit into the future as to where things are headed, always a great time and to touch on the two questions I always like to wrap up each episode with. So we're going to jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what'd you learn from it?
Okay, so the worst decision we ever made. So we had a consultant we were working with a little while back, and we use a software for our called a WMS system for our 3PL, and the one we had wasn't working properly for us. And this consultant said, "Look, we should switch to, we'll call it ABC company. Trust me, I know these guys. It's going to work well. It's going to solve all your problems. I'll kind of quarterback the implementation, and don't worry, it'll be great." And part of it too at the time, because I was still so new within the industry, and this guy had like 20 plus years experience. He was very experienced and very been around a long time, and I just kind of really looked to him. So, and I thought at the time he knows so much more than I do. So why shouldn't I trust his opinion? And so we went with it, and total mistake. Definitely set us back. We ended up having to move on from that software pretty quickly, and he's not with us anymore. And a lot of the things that were promised didn't happen. And really what and again, right, really at even despite all that, I'm glad we went through the process, and we were forced to learn a whole lot more quickly and correct things. And it led to a lot of other very good outcomes despite how painful that process with. But the biggest thing I think it taught me is, no matter what, someone's experience is or their background or whatever, just don't assume that someone knows what's best for your business, despite how experienced they are. And I just totally took his advice for granted and thought, because he knew he was so much more experienced in the industry, that I should just listen to him and defer to him, when in reality I should have vetted that a whole lot deeper. And if I had, I probably would have made a different decision.
Hmm. And that's kind of hard. On the one hand, you want to, I'll put in the quotes, go with the experts, and there's validity in going with the experts. In other words, sometimes having that background and experience can save you time, save you money, better outcome. And yeah, on the other hand, not all, and I'll put in quotes, experts are created equal, and not all, or advice or recommendations are all the same. And so sometimes you take that advice and it works out awesome and well and definitely worthwhile. And other times you get to have those learnings with the mistake, and learn not to make that same mistake in the future. So definitely sounds like it's an easy mistake to make, but a good one to learn from going forward. Second question now that I like to ask is, so now if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one rule of thumb that you'd recommend?
Oh, be prepared to trust the process, right? Because when you're getting into business, right, you have so much ambition and high hopes, and you just think that you're straight to the moon, and you're so excited about your idea and what you're going to do. And vast majority of the time, and virtually for everybody that I've talked to and interviewed on my podcast, it doesn't work out like that. There's a whole lot of mistakes, a whole lot of things where life will blindside you. A lot of ideas don't work out. There's so many unknowns. And it really is a process, and no one wants to hear that going in. And oftentimes you maybe fall into that trap of thinking that it's not going to happen to you. But in reality, you really need that process too. And I'm grateful that that we went through a lot of our challenges and mistakes, and it didn't grow as quick as I wanted it to, because we're able to like make a lot of those mistakes on a smaller level, and really go through a lot of those growing pains, right away, to where it's helped us much more, 2.5 years in. So I would just say, be prepared to trust the process and enjoy the journey, because again, right, you always want that destination, but once you get there, there's, no matter what goal it is, once you reach it, there's always another goal. But it's about really embracing and enjoying the journey, and to where even if you're not at where you want to be, that you're truly happy every day, making progress towards that goal.
No, absolutely. I think that's definitely a great piece of advice, a great takeaway. So now, as we kind of wrap towards the end of the episode, if people now want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah, best way. I'm always active on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn at Dave Gulas. And if you want to see anything I'm doing, you can go to davidgulas.com, and that's got links to the 3PL, the podcast, any other projects I have. It's got links to all the podcasts that I've been guests on. So this will be up there soon as well. So that would be the best way.
Awesome. Excuse me. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business, make or expand their network, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And along that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to just go to strategymeeting.com. Grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Awesome. Thanks, Devin.